Hello, this is Kevin Lausch with the Unitarian Universalists of Transylvania County, and we're here again for our Chalice Children's book reading. And today we're reading the book Sit-In, How Four Friends Stood Up by Sitting Down. And it's about the civil rights movement and the sit-in movement to integrate lunch counters in Greensboro, North Carolina, and how they helped to integrate the United States. It's a really great book. And with this book, we're continuing our theme for February, which is Beloved Community, and also our look at Black history. And this is a great book, so we hope you enjoy it, and let's get into it. Sit-In, How Four Friends Stood Up by Sitting Down, by Andrea Davis Pinkney, illustrations by Brian Pinkney. We must meet hate with love. These were Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s words that got them started. Four hungry friends, eager to eat, each took a seat at the Woolworth's lunch counter in Greensboro, North Carolina. David, Joseph, Franklin, and Ezel sat quiet and still, with their hearts full of hope, with Dr. King's words strong and close. They were the college students with a plan. It is February 1, 1960. They didn't need menus. Their order was simple. A donut and coffee with cream on the side. Woolworth's was very busy, so the friends waited. Patiently, silently, without a fuss. They were the only black kids at the counter. David, Joseph, Franklin, and Ezel sat while everyone else got served. At first they were treated like the hole in a donut, invisible. Others tried to ignore them. The waitress watched and refused them. This was the sign of the times, whites only. This was the law's recipe for segregation. Its instructions were easy to follow. Do not combine white people with black people. Segregation is a better mix. Now is the friends' turn to ignore and refuse. They ignored the law and refused to leave until they were served. Those kids had a recipe too, a new brew called integration. It was just as simple. Combine black and white to make sweet justice. For them, integration was better than any chef's special. Integration was finer than homemade cake. Integration was a recipe that would take time. So David, Joseph, Franklin, and Ezel sat quiet and still, with hearts full of hope, with Dr. Martin Luther King's words strong and close, be loving enough to absorb evil. They sat proud and straight, and waited and wanted. A donut and coffee with cream on the side. After sitting and waiting, a police officer came, but the four friends wouldn't leave. The police officer didn't know what to do. The students were doing nothing wrong. No crime in sitting, no harm in being quiet, no danger in looking hungry. The officer left the lunchroom counter without doing anything. The Woolworth's man turned off the lights and announced, "Woolworth's is closed." So the customers left, including four friends, who went home to dinner where they were served first. News had already spread about the sit-in. David, Joseph, Franklin, and Ezel got their names in the paper. The next day, February 2, 1960, more students showed up at the lunch counter. Sitting still was what was right. No reservation needed at Woolworth's. The students seated themselves. They're dressed in their best clothes. They were polite and determined. No guesswork for the waitress. The young people knew the menu by heart. They ordered, no food came. So they sat in silence and waited and wanted. A donut and coffee with cream on the side. The waitress reminded them, whites only. But those kids didn't budge. They didn't move. Until they were served, they refused. All they wanted was some food, a donut and coffee with cream on the side. To pass the time, the students read their school books. They wrote in their journals, they finished their homework. They didn't need to read the menu, so they studied for tomorrow's test. What started in Greensboro spread faster than a grease fire. There were lunch counter protests in Hampton, Virginia, Nashville, Tennessee, Montgomery, Alabama, Atlanta, Georgia, and many other southern towns. If lunch counters could go from whites only to all welcome, if integration could turn to interaction, if black people and white people could break bread together, everyone would pass the test. Everyone would score high, an A+ with coffee and cream on the side. But many folks were not motivated to make that grade. As the sit-ins grew, angry people gave the students a big dose of hatred, served up hot and heaping, coffee poured down their backs, milkshakes flung in their faces, pepper thrown in their eyes, ketchup not on the fries but dumped on their heads. They yelled at the students, "We don't serve your kind. Go home. Goodbye." The students wanted to lash out but couldn't. They wanted to strike back but didn't. Sitting still was so hard. Practicing peace while others showed hatred was tougher than any school test. Now there are news cameras filming the sit-ins, and viewers at home watching it all on TV. The students were more determined than ever to show the world the true meaning of peace. So they sat in silence, with hearts full of hope, with Dr. King's dream true and close. These were the words that kept them going. We must meet violence with nonviolence. The students sat proud and still, and waited and wanted, a donut and coffee with cream on the side. Soon the sit-ins grew bigger and wider. White students joined the black friends to protest the unfair treatment by restaurant owners who would not serve food to black patrons. They also opposed segregated libraries, buses, parks, and pools. With so many students gathered, people got scared there'd be fighting. They were afraid all those youngsters grouped together for a cause. Even though the students were committed to peace, the police now took action. They accused the students of loafing. They arrested them. They took them to jail. The students didn't resist. They didn't fight. Instead, they sang freedom songs to keep the peace. They held Dr. King's words steady and close. Demonstrate calm dignity. Soon folks were so busy arguing about who was right and who was wrong that they stopped going to Woolworths and other segregated places. Some shops were forced to integrate to keep their business alive, but the struggle is far from over. In April, an activist named Ella Baker organized a student leadership conference at Shaw University in North Carolina to help the young demonstrators. With Ella, the students formed the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, the SNCC, also known as SNCC. Inspired by Dr. King, they came up with powerful words of their own. These are the words that became the SNCC slogan. We are all leaders. When President John F. Kennedy got a taste of SNCC's integration, he didn't sit in. He stepped in. On June 11, 1963, the president went on TV. He urged Americans to treat each other fairly. He then told Congress to take action against segregation. This became the Civil Rights Act of 1964. On July 2, 1964, President Lyndon B. Johnson made the act a law. It banned segregation in public places. The hard work and courage of those brave students paid off. They'd taken a bite out of segregation. Now is time to savor equality. Now they are ready for a big sip of freedom. The order was simple. A double dose of peace with nonviolence on top. Hold the hate, leave off the injustice. Now the students had the right recipe for integration. The steps were easy to follow. Start with love, add conviction, season with hope, extra faith to flavor, mix black people with white people, let unity stand, fold and change, sprinkle with dignity, bake until golden, serve immediately. Makes enough for all. After weeks of sitting, when their backsides ached, after months of being still, when their feet fell asleep, after years of praying for laws to change, when they were so hungry for equality, the young people finally got what they ordered. It was worth the wait. It was served to them exactly how they wanted it. Well done. And oh, integration sure tasted good. Those courageous young people enjoyed every bite. They came back to Woolworths for seconds and thirds, for many helpings after that. The sit-ins were all done. The students left a big tip. You don't eat coffee with cream on the side. It's not about the food, it's about the pride. Those are the words that filled them up. And what's great about this book is it also gives a civil rights timeline, telling about what happened where in the nation and all the people who are instrumental in helping segregation end and integration come. Thank you. All right, that is our book, Sit-In, by Andrea Davis Pinkney and illustrated by Brian Pinkney. We hope you enjoyed the book and all our books about civil rights and about helping to make a beloved community. I thought this book was really good because sometimes making a beloved community means having to stick your neck out, having to have courage, and having to have, as John Lewis said, make good trouble. And this was an important point in our nation's history, and as we struggle for civil rights still, it's important to remember that history. Thank you so much. We'll have our worship at 10 o'clock. Reverend Bob will be here with the service. Have a good day.